Today, we're looking at how transformation starts from the inside out, how language becomes behavior, how boundaries create capacity, and how tiny systems outlast motivation. My guest is Tyler Newton. He's a business and nutrition coach who's helped thousands of coaches grow their businesses and deepen their nutrition knowledge at the Nutrition Coaching Institute. He's also the founder of New10 Fitness, where he's helped hundreds of clients transform their bodies and build sustainable habits. Tyler's passion is the mindset side of things because often when we shift our thinking, everything else follows. His approach blends straight talk, real results, and a deep belief that lasting change starts from the inside out. Expect to learn how to use no as a performance tool, turn language into behavior, and build additive nutrition and momentum, quiet the inner critic, and so much more. Enjoy the episode. Yeah, Tyler, I think a good starting place for us is I think most of us say yes by default into a lot of things. And it's actually funny because a lot of times that we say yes to things, even if we don't want to, we often wonder why our best work never happens. And I think you said in one of your podcasts, you said, say no more often if you want your best yes to mean something. And I do think that terrifies some people because it rubs up against FOMO, like maybe it's status loss, missed opportunity, or maybe anxiety of what might have been. So what do you think is the cost of a misplaced yes in our world? Like is there a sleep loss, training loss, client outcomes, things like that?
Well, I think like whenever you look at it, right? I think it defines the person and who the person is, right? Like I think we have to get really clear on who we're talking to when they're listening to this and are they a type of person that says like yes to everything and they're just like a yes man and they don't really have a backbone, but yet they say yes all the time to please other people and therefore it's always a yes to others. It's not a yes to themselves. And then you have other people though that are more so just like kinda like screw it, right? Like they say no to a whole lot of things. They don't really want to get out of their own way. Everything's just like I'm just gonna keep doing the same thing over and over again. Don't really say yes to anything, right? And so I really look at it more so from the standpoint of yes is powerful when you say no to the right things, right? And then you say yes to the opportunities that come your way. And I think it's a really big thing because too many people that I know, whether it be in the coaching space or, in a couple of other spaces that I'm in when it comes to like business gurus and, some pretty wealthy entrepreneurs, a lot of them sit there and, they'll say no to things because they're waiting for the right opportunity to say yes. Right. And, a lot of times you kind of think about those people who are saying no, they're not really saying no to you. They're saying no because it's not the right thing for them, right? And they know that their time is valuable. High level people understand the value of their time, but they'll also give a lot of their time if they're good people, right? Like the really good people will say yes to others to lift others up, but they also won't say yes to everything if they see that it's not going to be a productive outcome, right? And I always think about it this way. It's like I can say yes to everybody and I can do everything and put a smile on and be super happy about saying it. But also like internally, am I saying yes because I want to say yes, or am I saying yes because I just don't want to piss off other people? And I think where we want to wrap this into, or at least for me and like for your audience, if they're listening, because they're kind of looking for some mindset help or, health and fitness. I think a lot of times it's with significant others or bosses that people won't say no. They just always say yes. And it's because they have a lot of empathy. They have a big heart. They always want to serve others. And it's great. I mean, even coaches in our space, they fall into this trap. And where I see that becoming a problem is they don't normally sit there and know how to say no because they don't want to upset other people. And when they don't say no and they only say yes, really, really, they're like just shoving down who they are and who they want to actually be. And it's not that they're even bad people. It's just they don't know any other way, right? And I mean, it almost makes me think of like the conversation we had today in like our Mindset Society call where, you know, I was talking to people about the fact that like how many of you guys have literally had doors open for you. And, I'm not the biggest Christian. I am a Christian, but I do believe God puts doors in front of us all the time. And I believe that so many of us don't often see when God is putting that door in front of us to walk through. And all we have to do is say yes, right? But so many of us say no to that opportunity, but we'll say yes to the wrong opportunities because we don't understand that to get out of our current circumstance, we actually have to say yes to that opportunity. But because it's scary, because it's uncomfortable, because it doesn't feel right to probably say no and have the power of the word no, we say yes to all the wrong things. We say yes to what's comfortable. We say yes to the things that we aren't as afraid of, right?
Yeah.
Because it's normal. And,
Yeah.
and so I always think of it as like, you have to learn to use the power in our words and in the language that we speak to ourselves with. And if you say yes to the thing that's scary, you'll learn more about saying that yes than yes to what's comfortable. And so I think that's a really like deep conversation that like, I mean, you can go super far with because I just think more than anything, especially like when we're talking about health and fitness, I think that too many times we we don't understand that the reason why we probably don't lose more weight or hold the weight off, right? Because at the end of the day, listen, like everybody that's listening to this podcast, they've probably lost weight at some point. They really don't have a weight loss problem. They have a keeping it off problem because they get bored, because they want to go have a donut, because they want to have some cake. They want to enjoy like going out to dinner. And all those things are perfectly normal. You should, right? But we also have to have balance. But at the end of the day, like you also have to realize that if you're constantly fearing food, if you're constantly stressed and you're constantly having a battle of the language that you're telling yourself, well, you're oftentimes going to be causing your psychological to then not allow the physiological to keep up. And what I mean by that is a lot of times like what we are telling ourselves in our head, what we are saying to ourselves is oftentimes what is holding us back from making the most progress with our body, whether it be mentally, physically, or spiritually. And so we have to face those things. We have to start learning how to speak to ourselves and how to pretty much put forth into, I guess you could say, the universe, right? How do we manifest like our own success in the universe? I always tell people and I joke around. I said this, I guess it was about like 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And I sat there and I told him, I was like, hey man, because we're working on a new product. I won't pitch the product right now. That'll be for another time.
Can if
But
you want to.
maybe at the end we will, but I
Gotcha.
want to try to stay focused on this real quick. But I was
Yeah.
telling him as I had this idea, I called him. I'm like, hey, Dan, you know how I always tell you that like we're gonna be millionaires, we're just not millionaires yet. I was like, I think I got the idea. I was like, here's the idea. I was like, I don't know how to fucking do the back end of it though. And I know you love the back end, you love the operations. I was like, what do you say we go 50-50 on this? And we crush this. Like it's gonna be hard. We don't know what the hell we're gonna do, but you know what? Like we're gonna fucking figure this out, and this is gonna be our $1 million idea. I was like, we give it 3 years. We work on it while we work on our current roles. I was like, but we give it 3 years and we really build this thing up. And he goes, dude, I fucking love that idea. And I was like, fuck it, let's do it. He's like, perfect. Let's get on Zoom. I'm like, cool. Let me put the kid to bed. We hop on Zoom. We're instantly like trying to build it out. We're using some AI backed power stuff. And we get off the call. He's like, bro, he's like, we're not millionaires yet. He's like, but we're going to get paid. And I'm like, hell yeah, we are. Right. And so like every day now, like I wake up and I tell my wife and I joked around after like we got off the phone. I was like, hey, I was like, you don't know it yet, babe, but like we're millionaires. I was like, we just haven't got paid yet. I was like, "It's coming." Because I really believe in, like, the thing that, like, I'm building right now, right? Like, it's so much fun. I've been sending, like, the demo to people. People love it. Are there kinks in it? Is it perfect? Yes, it is absolutely got a bunch of kinks. It's got a bunch of bugs. Like, I gotta keep working on it. But the vision is there. Like, I see the vision. I understand how we gotta get there. Now it's the long fucking road, and it's the long hike that I'm gonna have to take in order to get it to where I see it can go. And literally before my wife, took off to go to happy hour, and she dropped me off at the house, and she was like, "Hey, how's the app going?" And I was like, "The app's good." I was like, "We have a lot of ideas. We have a lot of people behind it. We even have people that have already offered money to, like, buy into it." I go, "But we aren't taking the money." I said, "When we get to a place when we need the money, we'll take the goodwill." But really what we need, I was like, is we need the people. We need to build the community. We need to bring the people together to rally behind it. Because if somebody were to come in and buy us from private equity, they're not buying the app. Like some other smart nerd that understands programming that can type in that language probably could have built out what I built out in less time. But if I have the community, if I have the people that believe in the app and they like the fact that they get to do it with other people and they get a result, they become healthier, they lose weight, we help the battle of obesity. I go, somebody will pay us millions and millions of dollars for that, right? I go, so that's what I'm actually building. But the road to get there and how we're going to get there, that's what I have to figure out, and that's what I'm gonna have to navigate, and while I can see it, there's gonna be a lot of stuff I also don't know along the way, right? There's gonna be the bump in the road where we get to a fork and I'm like, "Ah, do I go left? Do I go right?" And I'm probably gonna choose the wrong path here or there, and then I'm gonna have to try to backtrack, right? And then, like, get back on the right track, and that's okay, right? Same thing happens whenever we start talking about, like, nutrition and fitness, and so, at the end of the day, it's like, how you talk to yourself and how you wanna problem solve what you're going through matters so much, because if I become a millionaire in 3 years, we're gonna look back at this podcast, and we're gonna be like, "Tyler fucking said it. He said
Yeah.
he was gonna be a millionaire," right? But now ask me when I get to be a millionaire, like what all I went through, right? It's probably gonna feel like hell. It's probably gonna feel like a lot of sleepless nights. It's gonna feel like a lot of ups and downs, but I kept going, right? And I knew what was on the other side. And so when we correlate that back to like health and fitness, it's like, how many of you guys are trying to lose weight? You lose 10 pounds, you're feeling really good, and then like your weight just plateaus, right? And so you hit that bump in the road, you have nowhere to go, and you're like, what do I do? And then you start to speak negatively to yourself about the fact that you lost 10 pounds, but the scale's not still going down. And so what do? You go back to what's comfortable. You go back to feeling bad to yourself because you say to yourself, oh man, like I'm never going to lose this weight. I'm never going to be like I was in high school. I'm never going to be 150 pounds again, or I'm never going to be 180 pounds. But what if you just needed to be a little bit more patient, keep doing what you were doing because you weren't doing anything wrong, and then before you know it, like, shoot, the scale goes down a pound, but it took you 2 weeks to stay where you were. How many people can, like, fight the urge to not be like, "Oh, I just suck at weight loss. Imma go back to doing what I'm doing. Fuck it."
Are you familiar with the reticular activating system?
Alright, don't speak too highly now, okay? Like, I'm a halfway smart guy, but, like, I'm not the PubMed guy.
No, no. I took a course and lifted level 1 with Mark England. I'm not
Okay.
sure if you know the guy, but he
I've heard of
talks
Mark.
in the beginning called the reticular activating system is part of the brain that literally finds things that are already true for you. So for example, have you ever bought a Honda, for example? You buy a brand new Honda off the lot, and then all of a sudden you see Hondas everywhere. It could be the same thing. Like you buy a protein shake, for example, and all of a sudden more people are drinking the same protein shake as you. Like it's the same kind of idea. Your brain looks for things that are already kind of true in your body. And the same thing as what you think of the most, you are normally get in return. It's that where energy goes, energy flows. And I think this is kind of what you're saying too, as well, is there's a term abracadabra. We know this magical word, but the literal translation for abracadabra is with my words, I create. So words like don't, won't, and other negative sounding words can actually put our bodies in a state of negativity. Whereas if we do things like, I can, I will, I may not be able to do it now, but I will eventually, which is sounds like what you're doing with your eventually I'm going to get $1 million or I'm already $1 million. You're a millionaire already now already because your mind says you're a millionaire. And I think for some people as well, and what I hear from you is if, let's say you're overweight, if you're overweight and you want to lose weight, the first place to kind of start is to act accordingly how a person who's not overweight. What is the person like that is not overweight? What is the habits? What words are they using? And it seems like language here, what you're saying is it really drives our behavior and whether if we say yes to more things, it's like, is that person who is healthier than your current version? Is your best version of you saying yes to those same things? And I think what some people struggle with, though, is understanding what to say yes to and what to say no to. So, how do you determine what is the best yes? Like, how do you work through clients who struggle with that?
I mean, to give like a real world example, right? Like I always like to tell my clients, I'm like, I don't need you to say no to a donut. I just need you to say yes to more protein, right? Like say yes, I'm gonna try to eat more protein today because we know as nutrition coaches, most people they tend to not eat enough protein, right? And so therefore, what do they end up being? Well, they're not satiated, right? So therefore, they're hungrier more often because they're eating highly processed carbs, and therefore their body is giving them hunger cues, but their mind is telling them, "Oh, I don't need to eat more because I want to lose weight," right? And so it's the wrong thing to say yes to because then they're so hungry and they're telling themselves no to like, I can't have that. I can't have that. Only to get to the freaking weekend and they've been saying, oh, I've been so good. I've been so good. They have like one Oreo and then the next thing you know, they ate the whole rack. They have two Oreos and then they've gone through two racks because they've deprived themselves of the Oreo. And so where I like to look at my clients and go like, okay, like you had an Oreo, what is the serving size of the amount of calories on the Oreo box? It says you can have 4 Oreos and it's 120 calories. Have 4 fucking Oreos. Better yet, say yes to having 4 Oreos every single night for the rest of the week. I want you to do that as a client. But here's what I want you to also do. I want you to hit 150 grams of protein and I want you to have a vegetable or fruit with every meal. So can you say yes to what I'm asking you and say no to the whole box of Oreos, but yes to 4 Oreos? Well, yes. Yeah, I can have 4 Oreos. You're telling me I can have 4 Oreos have 4 Oreos every single night. And really what I'm doing is I'm teaching without telling my client it's portion control. But if you go tell a client like, "Hey, we got to work on your portion control," instantly the language of telling them portion control means restrict to them because that's what they've been fed, right? So many people, when they think of portion control, think restrict, right? No, I don't want you to restrict. I actually want you to eat more. Most people just eat too much of the wrong things that don't satiate you and don't help us get towards our goals. And so instead of sitting there and saying no to the Oreo, we're going to say yes to 4 Oreos. Now, granted, there's got to be a little bit of self control in there, right? Like, I've got to trust you as my client to only have 4 Oreos. But don't you think if your coach or some guy on a podcast that you're listening to tells you to go have 4 Oreos and you really want 4 Oreos, that you can be like, you know what? It's okay. I can have 4 Oreos. It's in my plan. And then all of a sudden, you don't feel like you need the fifth one because you got what you really wanted, what you were really craving. While you also ate your 150 grams of protein, you had a fruit and vegetable with every meal, and then you made sure to have some really good carbs, like rice, quinoa, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes. Like you had good things with it, right? And you filled up on those things. Well, then all of a sudden we get a month down the road and you've been having Oreos every single night and you see that you've lost 4 pounds and you feel better, you have more energy. And so all of a sudden now we're burning more calories because you have more energy and you get to have Oreos, right? I use the same trick with a lot of clients where I'll put in their program. I'm like, "Hey, I need you to go buy some gummy bears." And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I need you to go buy some gummy bears." And they're like, "Why?" And I go, "Well, you're not getting enough carbs. And so what I want you to do is I want you to go buy a bag of gummy bears." And I do this myself. I go, "I want you to eat 13 gummy bears before you work out every day." And they're like, "Why?" I go, "I want the fast acting carbohydrates in your body because you won't get enough from just eating rice, potatoes, like all the good carbs that I want you to eat from fruits and vegetables. Like you're just not eating enough because you're burning 3,100 calories. So I want you to go eat 13 freaking gummy bears." And then they're like, "Oh, okay, like, I can do that." And all of a sudden, like, nutrition is fucking fun. Like, I don't have to fear food. I don't have to fear gummy bears. Now, if Sour Patches are your kids, okay, totally cool. Have 8 Sour Patch Kids. That's totally fine too. Like, whatever, like, sweet you like. But, like, let's place it in the right place, right? And listen, like, I know there's probably gonna be some nutrition coach out there that tells me, like, "That stuff's so bad for you." Listen, I just want you to fuel your body with something that's fast acting. If you just want to take a full of sugar straight to your mouth, cool. Be my guest. It can be cane sugar for all I care. But last time I checked, like I don't really like taking a spoonful of cane sugar. I'd rather have it in some gummy bears or some Sour Patch Kids, right? Like I'm gonna personally enjoy that a lot more. And then all of a sudden, like we're not restricting. The mindset isn't restrict. The mindset is let me place it in the right place in order to enjoy this diet because I want to diet the right way to create a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle change, right? Because last time I checked, how long does the average male live?
In America or Hong Kong?
Well, that's a different discussion. Let's just say America, you know?
America, what? I think I read it was in the
Yeah, 72, right?
yeah.
Average male lives a fucking 72. Now in Hong Kong, what is it? Like 82,
It's
85,
Hong Kong has the highest longevity, so it's 84, 85 years
84.
old, I think. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So are you telling me that you want to restrict yourself for 84 years if you live in Hong Kong or 72 years if you live in the States from like never feeling like you can have gummy bears or Oreos?
Yeah.
Fuck no, that sounds miserable. And also, like, you're gonna have kids, you're gonna have grandbabies, they're gonna want some of those foods because, like, a friend of theirs is gonna have it, right? Some other parent is going to introduce these bad foods that we
Yeah.
label, right? So you can either teach your kids, right, how to have these foods appropriately and not have to say no, right? Or we can instill fear in them at a young age, which takes me to another topic, right? How many people that we talk to have trauma around their dieting because of how they were raised and the fear that they had from their parents and the conversation that the parents used to have and tell their kids when they were a young age?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, and I like the idea of adding things rather than taking away, because I feel like a lot of people, and this is worldwide, this is almost anywhere I have gone over the many countries that I've been to coaching humans, is whenever we think the word diet, we think restrictive, paleo, carnivore, like all these named diets. And I think there needs to be a definition change here. Diet is what you consistently eat, right? I think Alan Aragon talks about that in the NCI course. And if we focus more on adding things rather than taking things away, as you're saying here, I think we could really flip the switch for a lot of people. It's like, okay, we can have those 4 Oreos, but before you eat those 4 Oreos, let's drink half a liter of water. Okay, let's just get a little bit of water intake beforehand, right? And then wait 5 minutes. If you're hungry, let's eat those 4 Oreos. If you're not hungry, maybe have 2 Oreos or maybe not have any, right? And it's trying to have these little switches. And I like this quote I read the other day. William James, American philosopher, says, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind." And so if we alter our attitudes of mind, we could really dramatically change really direction of at least our health. And it leads me to another question here is, if language really drives behavior, what's one small vocabulary change that you have seen reliable flip a client into action mode?
Man, I feel like that's a hard one for me because half the time I don't even remember what I say to clients. I just gotta when things come to like
Yeah,
asking me to remember what I say to clients and then like having to like rephrase it, I feel like is the hardest thing because I talk to so many people on a regular basis. I honestly like kind of go from like call to call. I mean, I literally spent 5 hours earlier today straight, like on call starting at 8 a.m. all the way
dang,
until 1:30 today.
that's a great thing.
Yeah, great thing. I
Yeah,
mean, a lot of good conversations, a lot of good breakthroughs with both like nutrition clients and personal clients in the business side of things. And so I really wish I could tell you something I've told a client that like I could remember saying and like it was a breakthrough.
yeah. I mean, so let me rephrase this question then. How have you personally learned to turn down the inner critic? Like, is there a question or maybe a statement that you ask or tell yourself?
Yeah. So for me, like it's just always the power of why. Like to me, it's always the question and I used to do this all the time whenever I had, you know, challenges that I would run. And we'd have like, group calls and I always loved to have what I called hot seats with people that would come on if I didn't really know them because it'd let me understand a deeper meaning. And so I would always talk about like, creating like an autonomous relationship with like exercise and health. And I would oftentimes like call in people and I'd be like, hey, like, why are you here? And then, typically the client would be like, well, like, I want to lose X amount of weight and I want to feel better and have more energy. And I'd be like, okay, cool. But like, why? And, then they would be like, well, just kind of told you. I'm like, no, but like, really, like, why? Like, what does that mean to you if you were 15 pounds lighter? Right. If you had more energy, like, what would that do? And, you would get now a little bit more beneath the surface, right? I kind of call it the iceberg question, right? Because it's like you get the surface level answer that everybody's going to give you that you can see above water. But then when you look below the ocean, there's this huge, huge rock of ice, right? And so you really only see the tip of the iceberg. And I used to have this thing just ingrained in my head. I'm like, you're going to ask why at least 3 times to somebody. And typically on that 3rd time, and sometimes it was a 4th why, but typically when you got really deep and you kept asking why to people and asked them to go deeper, that's when you would actually uncover the real reason and why they want the success that they want. And that's usually where I would start to see a lot more of the buy-in because they would never say those things out loud, right? They'd be thinking them internally, but they would never bring it out. And so when you finally uncover somebody's true identity, which I think a lot of us wear a lot of different masks. And so when you uncover the mask and the multiple layers that we put up because we're used to being defensive, right? We're used to not wanting to let people see like our true selves. So therefore we bring a mask as a protective mask, right? We want to protect ourselves. And so I always love to do that with clients because I need to know as a coach that I can get you to go to your reasoning of like why what you're doing is so important. One of my clients, I'm kind of an asshole to her, to be honest, right? We have that kind of like banter and relationship where like she just needs tough love because she's a tough individual. And so she's usually the one like doing all the tough love and like being like the hard rock. And then she met me and she kind of found out like I could match that energy. And we have a great relationship. Like she's been a client off and on for God, close to 4 years, right? And I always tell her, I'm like, I love you, but like, now you're gonna get the asshole version of Coach Tyler, right? And it's just to shoot her straight. And for her, it's one of those things like recently, like her husband, like he's pre-diabetic now, right? And she's like, you know, we do eat fairly healthy, and then, you go peel the layers back and you realize like, yeah, you eat healthy, but you also kinda eat like assholes in spurts, right? Like they're kinda all or nothing people. They're either all in, like trying to do the next challenge, do the next fitness craze, like high rocks. Before that, they were doing like the Spartan races. Before that, they were running marathons. And, it's like when they're ready for those, like they're all in. But it's like if they're not prepping for something, then they're just eating like assholes. And so I I had to look at her and I was like, okay, so like, let's unpack this. Like, now you see like the all in mentality that we've been talking about for multiple years. Like, but we haven't actually made anything stick when you're not all in training for something. Right. And so we had to have that really deep conversation. And I don't want to go too deep into like what we talked about because, that's somewhat personal for her, but it just unpacks so much stuff that will really open up her eyes. And so, I told her, I was like, hey, like the only way we're gonna work past this is like now, like every morning, like I want you to send me pictures of what you eat. I go, and I want you to tell me like your stress levels for the day. Because now if I know like what kind of stress she's under, what is causing her stress, now we can work through that, right? Now we can start to analyze like where the stresses are coming from, how are we dealing with it? How does it make you feel? How do you want to eat when you feel that stressed? Okay, cool. Also, like I told her to eat 2,200 calories and she looked at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, girl, I'm like, you're doing strength training in the morning and then you're going for a 3 to 4 mile run in the afternoon. Like, we got to eat more. Well, come to find out, she didn't know how to read her Apple Watch. She's like, well, like, my Apple Watch says, like, I'm not even getting close to burning that many calories. Okay. Well, look at this number. She's like, oh, shoot, it's saying I'm burning like 3,000 calories a day. I'm like, okay, will you eat 2,200 calories now of like good, clean food? She's like, okay, like, you're right. And so a lot of times it's just like people just don't know a lot of times or they're confused. And you have to be able to, as a coach, as a good mentor, like unpack all of those things, right? Like you can read all the books, you can have all of the academic knowledge in the world. But if you don't know how people's psychology works and you don't understand the clients and how to reach them, I don't think you'll ever be a really successful coach. And it's because like life isn't a textbook. Life is a million freaking things thrown at you day to day. And how you handle those things that get thrown at you from day to day, and like how you talk to yourself, how you think about yourself, how you think about food, how you think about stress. Like all of those things are the things that we have to work on and we have to unpack. Right. And sometimes weight loss isn't actually the thing you need right now. Sometimes it's the way you talk to yourself that we need to heal first because you've been talked to by somebody else as you're being raised because of your environment. And that is what needs to be fixed first before you even should have permission to lose weight. Because listen, you and I both know I can give you the perfect macro prescription that puts you in a caloric deficit, but if you're not bought in and you're not understanding like why we need to do that, if you're not understanding why we need to work on our breathing techniques to like de-stress, if you're not understanding how to cope with stress in your life, like that has a lot to do with your fight or flight, your cortisol levels, how much melatonin you're producing, right? And so now we get to sift through all the water to find the gold.
Absolutely. I had a recent conversation with one of my clients, and I send check ins with my clients to see how they're doing. And one of the last questions I asked in in that check in is, "What is one win and one challenge that you face today?" And more often than not, they find the challenge and not the win. And it was hard to look at what's working, and it's easier to find what's not working. And we had a conversation around it, and her mind is all focused on the negative things that's going on in her life. And if we look at like the habits that she's working on, we're getting more fiber intake, we're getting more protein intake. Look, you're sleeping a little bit more, you're not playing on your phone before you sleep. Those are wins, right? And in that conversation, when she's telling, it was actually really funny. She's telling me all these challenges she's facing and how she can't see a win. But in that same conversation, she told me 5 wins. And it I was pointing those out. I was like, it sounds like that's a win. And I was like, that's another win. And then I think a light almost switched for her. At least I hope it did, to look, these are the small wins that we're talking about. These are the things that are going to get you that compounding interest to get you to that $1,000,000 eventually, right? You can't just invest $1,000 and expect you're going to get $3,000 in return the next day. It's a compounding interest over time.
I mean, I have a firm belief for anybody that's actually listening to this, and if they've made it 35 minutes into this podcast, I have a firm belief that as a coach, if I get one new habit per month ingrained in you, and we work solely on one habit for, let's say, the month of August, right? Like we start August 1st, we work all the way through August 30th on one habit, and we perfect that habit. We then go and we add a second habit in September. And now we're stacking the first and the second habit on top of each other for that second month. And you nail that. And we move on to October. And we get to October, we add a third habit on top of the first two that we're still focusing on. If we start to stack those habits over the course of 12 months, you will probably have more new habits that now have become a part of your lifestyle rather than what every person that goes and hires a coach wants, which is like, give me 6 new things. I need this, I need that. Like, I want to work on all of this. And so, what most new coaches do in the space is they go to try to say yes to the client, give the client 6 new things, right? They try to give them everything that like the client expects. When most clients actually need to slow the hell down, they just need to focus on one thing right now. And I've often told clients like all the time ago, I'm the worst coach out there for you because I'm not going to give you a lot of things each month to work on. And if things are going really good, we're not going to touch it. We're going to keep going. And it's going to be so boring. And you're going to be like, why the hell am I paying you to be my coach? Well, you're paying me for whenever things get rocky. You're paying me for whenever I need to flip a switch and we go into a weight loss. Or you're paying me to take you through a bulk when you want to look at yourself and be like, oh shit, this is scary. I'm adding a little bit of extra fat. Right. But in order to add more muscle, like we got to be in a slight surplus, right? And so it's navigating you and being a Sherpa to get you to the top of the mountain and not to say, hey, figure it out, get yourself back to the bottom. It's to take you to the peak and then also get you to the summit, right? And so if anybody that's listening to this will understand, it's like just give yourself one thing that you're going to master for 30 days and then keep mastering it for 60 days while you add something else on top and go slow. Don't try to go fast. You didn't gain 50 freaking pounds over, a course of 10 years and then expect to lose 50 pounds in 30 days. Like this isn't the Biggest Loser. We're not making you burn 6,000 calories a day and giving you 800 calories so that way we can make a damn TV show. That which by the way, I don't know if you've seen that documentary on Netflix yet or not, but it is a wild one if you go back and look at it, right? Like there's this thing, sidebar, which I want to say, John, I've tried my damnedest to stay as like on track with trains of
No,
thoughts without
I love it.
sidebarring,
I
but
love
we're
it.
gonna
It's okay.
sidebar real quick, okay? Because the one thing we probably did tell everybody before they started listening is like I can go down a lot of rabbit holes. I probably have a little bit, but I go down a lot of rabbit holes. It's just how my ADHD brain works.
I still want to hear about your TV series that you've been on.
Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about that at the end. We
Yeah.
we want to we want to keep the people in. I don't want to bore them, but for anybody that wants to stick around here, we'll tease it. I do have acting credits on a TV show. So
Yeah.
not only do I do podcasts, so I coach fitness
You're
coaches
also a
and coach
celebrity.
clients. I You might have seen me on a TV show before.
Yeah.
And so what's funny about it is we I was watching the Biggest Loser documentary and they were kind of going behind the scenes and they had some of the coaches on, the male coach, I forget his name, but then they had some of the producers telling their side of the story and then they had some of the contestants. Some contestants had like great things to say, other contestants were like it was bullshit and all this, but if you really think about it, right? Like we all know that in order to help people lose weight, it's more so about the diet, right? Like the working out is the added on bonus to help us get there better and like to put on muscle and have a lot of benefits. But we all know that in order to really lose weight, you have to eat in a calorie deficit, right? Well, in order to show like the Biggest Loser and to get these people to lose the most amount of weight and to make the show interesting year over year, like they were putting these people through absolute hell. They're at a ranch. They're pushing them all times a day where they're burning 5 to 6,000 calories a day. They'll show you a little bit about how they were eating, but that wasn't exciting. So therefore, they would show the trainers yelling and pushing the contestants like to their breaking point where they were puking or fainting, like all the things that like you and I as a coach, God, we would hate it today, right? Like, I mean, it's amazing that the show lasted as long as it did without like having multiple lawsuits, if you ask me, because the obese person just didn't know any better. They just wanted their life to be changed. They were willing to do whatever to change their identity, except we had to make a TV show about it and do it in the most unhealthy way possible, even though they tried to kind of cover their tracks. And so, because it was for entertainment, it wasn't actually for the health of the contestants, because all the contestants ended up losing the or gaining the weight back. I think it was like close to 90% of the contestants gained the weight back. And so what that tells me is like, okay, cool. Like we showed we could help people lose weight, but where the show failed people was showing people how to maintain the weight loss. Because as many of the contestants talked about is they were still working out. They were still trying to eat very similarly to what they were doing while they were at the ranch on the show, but then they kept gaining weight and they were gaining weight and then they got to a point to where they were like, I'm almost as heavy as I was beforehand, but yet like I was still trying to move. I was still trying to eat similarly. And then I thought to myself, like, what is this all for? Or this was me paraphrasing, like one of the contestants. He said, I was doing everything that I was doing while there, but I couldn't work out, 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day. But yet I was still working out every day and I was still eating the same, but I was starting to gain the weight back. And I didn't understand. Eventually, like I just got to the point to where I said, well, I guess I just really wasn't meant to be skinny. And like, how big of a mind shift is that? Because they didn't understand that they were burning so many calories and eating so little that when they came back, well, just working out for an hour a day was only burning X amount of calories, right? And then when they needed to eat, say, like 2,000 calories, well, now they're technically at maintenance or a slight surplus because they weren't burning as many calories. But they were never taught that, right? They only knew go work out for 6 to 8 hours a day, run themselves into the ground, have hip fractures, right? Have, so many injuries because your body could not maintain that level of fitness because you weren't actually getting it the proper nutrients, right? So it's an interesting case study. Like my mind goes wild and is fascinated with the fact that, almost everybody gained the weight back. And some of the people that you do see that now, actually look very, very good. Well, then that flips the script and all of them started talking about how the only thing that helped them was getting on Ozempic or some sort of peptide. So, what does that tell you? Right. So there's another rabbit hole there.
Yeah, I'm NCI has the peptide certification, the mentorship going on right now. I'm part of it. I don't know too much about peptides. I'm also part of a Facebook group that has some practitioners, some doctors in it that I try to pick their brains every once in a while. Jordan Syatt,
Love
Jordan Syatt.
Jordan. Yeah.
Did you
Good dude.
watch his did you watch his 8-month journey using GLP-1s?
I didn't, man. I stay so busy that when I get a chance to actually watch like TV or podcast or anything like that, it's now either football because it's almost football season or
Yeah.
I live in Texas and I actually love to play poker in my free time. So I tend to actually watch like poker videos or football podcast just because sometimes I like to turn the nutrition brain off and the
Yeah.
coaching brain off because otherwise like I'll stay up all night, I'll hear something and then I'm like, oh man, like you know, I should do this with a client or like, oh man, this is fascinating. So I try to put on some stuff that's going to make me go a little bit more
Yeah.
brain
I
dead
love it.
at night.
Yeah, I love it. No, just kind of a brief about his 8th-month journey, which I found very interesting because he was kind of anti peptide. Like Ozempic, I think it gets a bad rap around, weight loss and type 2 diabetes and things like that. But peptides in general, he found that not only did he lose weight, but his blood markers started to improve, like APOB, his cholesterol, his blood pressure. He was able to get off blood pressure medication. There were so many positives that outweighed the negatives, if there was even any negative by using peptides. And he changed his mindset around it because for some people who really, really struggle, like it's really hard for some people to even take that first step, to even just get into the gym or maybe eat a vegetable or change some habits. And at the end of it, he talks about how it can be a good first step for someone to start changing their habits eventually because they're going to feel how it feels to feel healthier. And this is not to say everyone here should go out and do peptides. I think your hormones need to be in check before you do peptides at all. I think there's probably going to be somebody that listens to this and be like, "Oh, I'm going to get on GLP-1s." But, like don't for sure. There's other, but I think it is a evolving research topic that I think it's the future for some things, for some people.
So So I actually feel the same way, right? Like to me, like I listen. I mean, I love to be the guy that makes like bold statements. You know, I used to shit on keto all the time, and it wasn't ever actually that I really didn't like keto. It was I didn't like people that didn't do keto correctly and then come off of keto correctly if they wanted to like reintroduce carbs, because I feel like most people they kind of screw up these diets and they don't do it correctly or seek help on how to do it correctly. And so I also used to say the same thing about Ozempic as well. My only problem with Ozempic is not the actual peptides, it's the company. So like my biggest issue is not that people shouldn't do peptides. I actually think a lot of people could get a lot of help from peptides because if you really think about it, like our body naturally makes like what is it, like 300,000 natural peptides, right? Like in our body. And so it's helping boost the peptides to actually regulate, because so many of us, especially in America, we're fed shit. Like
Yeah.
we're fed not very good foods, and that's what's actually promoted to us the most. Most of us don't shop at a local market or a fresh market or stay near like the whole meats, the fruits, the vegetables. Like if we could get rid of like 50% of the supermarkets here that we go into and shop and get rid of half the stuff that's in them and just shop more fresh ingredients, like we wouldn't have the obesity epidemic that we're having right now, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so it's not that peptides are actually bad for you. It's the companies that are trying to force some more peptides on you when you should be microdosing them rather than upping your prescription. The first week you take peptides, I think you should kind of overdose. I say that loosely now. When I say overdose, I just mean like you're going to have an upper dose when you first start to kind of kick fire the natural peptides and get them going. And then from there, you should actually downregulate it and then microdose the peptides, right? But what I don't like about Ozempic and Wegovy and some of the other bigger companies that have a lot of private equity behind them is they're in it for the revenue dollars to keep trying to push more on you when you actually don't need more of the peptides, and they don't know how to just like sell you a microdose because their pockets get lined by you taking more. And that's
Yeah.
where we actually see the disruption in people's guts and we see the issues that people are having with the GLPs. And so it's not that the GLPs are naturally bad, it's that they want to overdose you with the peptides rather than microdose you with the peptides. So, like with anything, right? It's like a little bit is good, too much of a good thing is actually a bad thing.
Yeah. And I think there just definitely needs to be a lot more research into it. I think over time, the research is evolving and it can change. And peptides don't mean GLP-1s. There are probably, oh, geez, there are so many peptides in the market. And source matters. I think if you don't know your source, you could really mess up your body if you don't do it smartly. That's just kind of my skit on that. But tracking back to our previous conversation, you were talking about kind of that tip of the iceberg, right? And it kind of brought me back to previous images that I've seen where you have that iceberg in the water. And what you see is that success at the top of the iceberg, but all the work that it takes at the bottom of the iceberg, which is normally a lot more than what you see at the top. So, how do you define sex? Like, what is success to you?
Success, like from a dieting standpoint,
Diet and lifestyle, let's say.
to me, it's like success is like seeing a goal that I want to reach, and just knowing that I'm doing everything I can to control that success, right? To control me getting to that goal. I have a 1 year old now, Charlie. She's the best. And when you first have a kid, like, man, those first like 6 to 8 weeks, man, like you're not really doing a lot. It's hard to like go work out. You're trying to get used to this new person that you're having to take care of who needs to be fed like every 2 hours, and then they nap. And then, you're trying to let mom sleep and get rest because she's up every night. So therefore, like you're taking care of it. And, it's a really big change. And, I gained weight, man. I got up to like 203, right? And then, I kind of looked at my wife. I was like, okay, like we're finally in a rhythm. Like I'm gonna start going to the gym at this time, right? And having the communication of like, hey, like we need to try to like start getting back to like what we were doing before we had Charlie, and start to regulate like being who we were. And so slowly, like I started with like just getting back in the gym for like 3 days at a time, right? Just waking up, going in, and then, that was kind of a struggle because like, man, there's sleepless nights. You're waking up multiple times at night. And my wife is always the one that hits me to get up, now that she doesn't have to feed overnight. And so, I'd go to the gym and like I'd be there, right? And that was success, right? Like it started out at like, if I could get to the gym 3 days a week, that was success, right? Just keep moving, keep getting something done, go for extra walks, get extra steps in. And then slowly I was like, man, like, she takes naps twice a day. Like, what if I had a walking pad in my under my desk because it's so hot outside? It's hard to take her outside in this heat. Like, I need to get my just extra steps in. Like, if I can't make it to the gym 4 days a week. So I got a walking pad, right? Started moving a little bit more, small progress, right? And then I was like, all right, well, like that's a success. Like I'm slowly starting to see, my body come back a little bit, lose a little bit of weight. And then, I was working, I have my own coach, by the way. So like I'm a coach, I know what to do. I still need somebody to yell at me.
Yeah,
Not that he has
absolutely.
to yell at me, but like I just want the accountability, somebody to show up to, somebody to keep saying like, hey man, like how you doing this week? Like what do we need to work on? And then slowly I was like, hey, like I think I need to wake up earlier and like go to the gym because like I'm having to rush through these workouts and I can't really get through them in the time frame that I want before I have, a call schedule that's always changing. And so then it was like, okay, I'm gonna start waking up like 30 minutes earlier, right? So I started waking up 30 minutes earlier, 3 days a week, got the workouts done, was feeling good. I was like, all right, cool. And then I looked at my wife. I was like, man, I think I want to try to like shoot for 4 days a week. So then I shot for 4 days a week, going to the gym. And then I was like, hey, like it's really hard to get like some of my work done, after I get home from the gym. And I think I want to make it a habit to where I wake up at the same time every single day. So therefore, I'm waking up at the same time 5 days a week. I'll sleep in on Saturday, Sunday, like no excuses. And she's like, yeah, you should do that. So then it was like 6 a.m. But then I noticed like I would want to work on some stuff, but then again, my workouts then were now getting cut short. So therefore, I was like, hey, I'm going to wake up at 5:30. I can spend 1 hour from the time I get to the gym on work that is uninterrupted. This is when I work on like my daily reflection, my morning reflection, my to-do list of like how I'm going to win the day. So my daily win map. And then I spend about 30 minutes to 45 minutes on the app that I'm building out. And so it gives me a clear head to get right to work. I'm drinking my pre-workout. I'm getting these things done. I'm mapping out my day. I see what I need to get done. And then I can get my workout in. And it all started just with 3 days a week of getting back into the routine, right? 5 days a week of like eating at home. And then like the weekend, we could kind of figure out. And then it went to, okay, I'm going to do 4 days a week. And then like we're not going to eat out other than on like Sunday, whenever we know like our groceries tend to be depleted. And, like it was just like every month, right? Like I've just been stacking. And, yesterday it's so funny, right? Like my wife wanted freaking donuts. And so she came home after taking the kid out to the domain here. And her favorite donut shop is in the domain. And she's like, do you want some donuts? And I didn't see it till like she was basically like already home. And I was like, man, like, yeah, donut would sound great. Grab me one. Like, why not? Like, I've been really good, but like, fuck yeah, donut sounds
Yeah.
good. She
Yeah.
brings home 6 donuts, right? Hi, dude. These are good donuts too. These are like the cake donuts. They have some filling in them. There's like a PB&J one. There's like an Oreo one. By the way, I don't know if you guys can tell from this podcast, like I kind of like Oreos. And so it's like, dude, I smashed 3 donuts yesterday. I did not feel bad about it whatsoever. I was like, man, like I hadn't had a donut probably 8 months, 9 months, like been a while, right? So like I smashed 3 donuts. I wake up this morning, I go to weigh in. I weighed 193. I hadn't seen 193 in probably like 2 years, right? But like it all just starts from just being like, cool, like I'm gonna make this task and like I'm going to try to accomplish this feat of 3 days a week. And then it was slowly like, okay, this is easy now. Like, let me add a little bit more difficulty, right? And so I think it
Absolutely.
really goes back to like what we talked about earlier. Like, success is just like setting a goal, starting to achieve that goal. And when that goal starts to feel easy because the resistance of achieving it has gotten easier, then I'm gonna add a little bit more difficulty to it, right? And so, do I ever think I'm probably gonna wake up like 7 days a week at like 5:30 a.m.? No. But like at the end of the day, like I'm going to start to like still find like ways to like add more, right?
Yeah.
To what I'm trying to shoot for, right? So maybe, I intuitively eat. I don't really track calories. I've just been doing this for such a long time that, man, I can look at a piece of chicken and if you want to piss me, biggest pet peeve. Okay, I'm gonna rattle myself real
Okay.
quick. I'm gonna make
I
myself
love it.
sound like an
Okay.
asshole. If I go out to eat and I see a $20 meal or plate that I order, and I order grilled chicken, and you bring it to my table, and I know it's not 8 ounces and it looks like 4 to 6 ounces, oh man, I get so mad because in my mind, I always ask, I go, hey, because a lot of times I'll do like double meat if I know that I'm trying to hit my protein goal, right?
Yeah.
And I'm okay with paying for the double meat. But a lot of times I love to ask this question to the waitress. I'm like, hey, how much chicken is like on top of that salad? Like, is it a chicken breast? Is it 4 ounces? Is it 6 ounces? Because in my head, what am I doing? Like, I'm counting the protein, right? Like, I just know it so easily. So I'm like, all right, 4 ounces, 25 grams, 6 ounces. We're sitting at
Yeah.
roughly like 40. Like, okay, man, I get so mad when they bring me out like a piece of chicken and they say it's like 6 to 8 ounces and it's only like four. And it's like 4 strips of a chicken breast that's like so bad. I'm like, I paid $22 for this,
Right.
and you gave me 4 ounces of chicken. Like, oh
It's
my
like
god, that's my biggest pet peeve.
it's like a ripoff.
Well, listen, I'll pay for what I eat. Like, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. Like, I know that I'm the most expensive person in this house, not from like the shit I wear, the stuff I buy, just from how much I eat because I have to eat a lot.
Yeah.
But boy, man, like that's a big pet peeve. I just want to pay for what I get. I like.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, to wrap it all up and not to get too sidebar, like success is just achieving the goal that you set out without giving yourself a pass or fail, right?
Yeah.
Like I,
Absolutely.
I think the biggest thing that like people, the trendiest thing right over the last like 4 or 5 years is people doing 75 hard. And I've done 75 hard with Andy Frisella. Like I was probably like one of the OG people that did it back in like 2020. And I used to get a lot of clients from 75 hard because they didn't know what to do after 75 hard. They didn't actually implement the lifestyle of 75 hard. And I think for me, like I was doing so much of it outside of like the 2 workouts a day, that it was like super easy for me to accomplish. And the great thing about 75 hard is like if you do it correctly, it should create lifestyle changes. I think what it does wrong though is it gives you a start and end date. And I think most people don't need to have a start and end date. I think they need to just have micro goals that they're stacking that fit into their lifestyle. That is where success is actually going to be bred, right? Because whether or not you lose the 50 pounds in a month but then rebound and gain it all back, like the biggest losers, or you lose 50 pounds in a year and then you're able to keep stacking that and hold it off. And now you're living, let's say, from 250 pounds at 200 pounds, and you can go and live for the next 5 years at 200 pounds. And then you're like, you know what? Like, I think I want to try to like drop a few more pounds. Like, I'm pretty sure I have some more weight I could, lose, or I just want to look a little bit more ripped. Like, maybe I need to build some muscle, right? Like, okay, sit at the 200 pounds, like allow your body to stay there. I have more respect for people that are able to lose the weight and keep it off rather than people that can lose more weight than like what they initially thought, but then gain it all back.
Yeah. Same. I know so many people that yo-yo into things and they never change anything about their habits. And like, sure, maybe they have a busy lifestyle, busy. I think we're all busy in a way. But if your version of dieting is, I'm just going to restrict my calories to like 800,000 calories for a month, lose all this weight, and then, I'll just go back to where I was because I feel better about myself. And I think to me, I think that sets you up for what I think is just unsustainable lifestyle changes, unsustainable fat loss, and of course, we keep going into this trial and error cycle. We try a diet, maybe it works, or we try different things and maybe it works, but then eventually it doesn't work, and then you don't know what to do, kind of like what your 75 hard that you're talking about. And yeah, like success to me, I think is doing your best, both in learning and doing the thing. And personally, for me, I think there's a lot of people that might be listening to this thinking it's like there's a lot of failures in life and a lot of things that they tried and they quote unquote failed at. I don't really like that word because I think if you have a growth mindset, you find failures or setbacks motivating and informative even. You you're motivated by all the setbacks that you find in life. It's like, and you cannot control what life brings to you. You cannot control life. Like it's just, you have your life that you have. So you can view failures as either things that you fail at and be in the negative mindset of that, or you can view it as a growth opportunity and be like, how can I grow from this?
Yeah. I
And
think everything's gotta stick to a growth mind, right? Like,
yeah,
and I think we gotta look at, instead of looking at failures as like, "I failed," we gotta look at failures as like, "What did I learn through the failure?" Because it's not truly a failure unless you didn't learn anything from the mistake.
yeah, absolutely. And I think so. I read a book, "A Body Keeps a Score." I don't know if you've ever read that book. It's a
I
really,
haven't
really
read
good
it.
book. But there is a quote in the book. It says, "The greatest sources of all of our suffering are the lies that we tell ourselves." And we
Truth.
tell ourselves many lies, like things are working and things are not working, or like this is going to work for me and things like that. And I think it's good to have that growth mindset and positive mindset towards yourself. But the lies that I kind of refer to is I'll just start tomorrow, right? Or I'll just go and do this the next day. It's like, oh, but let's be honest, like I'm kind of reductionist in that area. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. And I think many people are either stuck in the past or stuck in the future and they don't focus on the present day.
Yeah.
And I think anyways, that's my skit. And I'm going to end this off with Tyler. You are fantastic. I've really enjoyed this conversation with you, and I really can't wait to speak with you again. Where can people find more about you?
Yeah. People can find me on Facebook. Just search my name, Tyler Newton. You'll probably see a guy working out in the gym in my profile picture. Or you can also find me on Instagram. Recently changed my Instagram handle. So let me make sure I tell you guys the right Instagram handle. Coach Tyler New and then the number 10. So, give me a follow over there. I don't blast people with a bunch of fitness stuff. I mean, I'd say it's a plethora of my wife and my kid, and then also like fitness stuff, and then some golf content. I love to play a little 18 holes every now and again. So yeah, come over there if you're into that sort of thing. And then, if you guys ever want to chat, or you the guys listen to this and want to say something nice, if something stuck with you, like shoot me a message. Happy to chat. I never really turn anybody away or act too busy. So yeah, hit me up either one of those places.
Love that. I'll also post your links in the description of this podcast, and people can go find you there.
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Tyler. And next time, we're definitely going to talk about your,
We didn't get into the TV series, but we definitely will next time. And I appreciate you having me on, John. It was great.
yeah. Thanks, Tyler.